9th week of the story Trincia's Adventures. If you missed the previous chapters, feel free to watch from the beginning. It started out really dramatically, but then we ended up here, a completely new world for us. We have spent these first few weeks to get settled in, but we also met all the people in the nearby village and made lots of new friends there. Our closest friend is the elder. He's an old man, but the wisest I have ever met. He's also the only one of the villagers that we can understand somewhat. The elder told us their story, which is a cruel and sad story, and he studied our doings discreetly from a distance. Many years ago, perhaps hundreds of years ago, this world was visited by invaders who took over the land. They killed, enslaved, and destroyed. They spread a sickness that still decreased the inhabitants hundreds of years after the looters fled for their lives from the Enderman, and thus disappeared forever. Since then the villagers never recovered. The elder and just a few others survived, but they couldn't reproduce. When we met them, they were near extinction, suspicious and very depressed. Since the elder saw how we cared for the environment and still could defend ourselves here, his trust for us grew and he asked us for help. We didn't hesitate. We cured the villagers and gave them new jobs. They now make babies and they have new houses to move into. I have told about all these things in previous chapters of my story, but one side project of mine is not told about so far. This house has an extra story, and that's the cellar, which I might have mentioned before, but now the sorting room in the cellar is finished, and I will show you a little of this very important feature and how it was made. We can go down to the cellar either by the stairway or by this glow vine. The room is very tall to make room for stacks of chests, but also to minimize the ticking sound from the machine. Here is the dispenser that spits out items that we throw in a chest upstairs. Upstairs in the working area, there is one listing chest for each row of chests in the sorting room. These list chests tell us where to find the item we are looking for. Initially, I built a stairwell that surrounds the staircase and then dug down to the bottom around it. I had to dig out the sorting room from the top to put in the ceiling in white, light grey and grey wool before anything else. The second stage of the digging is done here, and I could now start digging on the bottom level. From down here the ceiling is easier to see, so the nice pattern in grey and white is more visible. I spent every moment of free time to dig, and it took a long time, a very long time. Finally, the entire room was dug out, and the next step was to fill it up with all the machinery and chests for sorting. First of all, the redstone bodies were put up. My choice of wool in white, light grey and grey was to mirror the pattern in the ceiling. Next, all the chests are put in place. Each stack of 4 double chests has room for one type of item. There is room for almost 4,000 of an item in one chest stack. Above the chests and the machinery, there is a canal made of glass. In here, flowing water will transport the items we put into the sorting system. Packed ice was inserted to allow the items to continue between each water flow. Glowstones with an empty sign were placed on the sides next to the packed ice. Under the canals there are hoppers that will further transport an item into the right chest. If a chest is full, it starts filling up the next chest in a stack. We have signs with an item on each stack of chests. That way it's easier for us to find. The same items must be in the top hopper above, so the item drops down. The order of the items also has to correlate to the list chest up in the house. To create the water flow, we used regular ice. It melts after a while, or it can be hit to melt. This is the easiest way to put in the water on top of hoppers. To test the system, we started to move all the items we collected so far into the sorting chest in the working room. You can see how the first item in the chest is decreasing as it trickles down into the hoppers all the way to the dispenser below. So we run down to see if it works the way it's supposed to. The dispenser sure spits out all the items we put into the chest above. All items are transported and drops down to the right chests. When we were finished with the sorting room, we already had collected so many more items, so we had to expand the sorting room with 108 more stacks of chests. The finished version contains of 3 rows of chest stacks, 54 on each side of the pathway in the middle, making room for 324 different items. There is a meeting in the village. The elder has been very cheerful lately. At the meeting he lets us know that they are planning for a gathering to celebrate the rebirth of the village. Some people from nearby villages will be invited too. Kalam and I have to come since we will be the honorary guests at the celebration. We are asked to only bring a sign with us, whatever that means. The celebration party will be in the end of this week. Until then, the elder suggests us to take some time off and just enjoy. So I built a chicken coop next to the house on the jungle side and moved the chicken there. We will only have a few chickens in the coop, but the eggs that they lay will fall into hoppers under the coop. The eggs will then go down into a chicken farm underground next to the sorting room. A dispenser will spit out the eggs and some of them will hatch into new chickens, which we slaughter and cook for food. We noticed that no sugar canes were transported to the village. The error was that the flying machines had stopped working. Kalam shows me how to start the machines again. They will sometimes stop working when we are not around the house. And of course, silly Kalam has to play around before getting up on the leaf wall again. After all that silliness, Kalam fixes the rail carts that transport the sugar canes to the village, and we run after the cart to make sure it doesn't get stuck on the way. The sugar railroad now has a cover over it to protect it from creatures walking on it. This ugly cover will be disguised with leaves. That might make it look a little nicer, like a long line of low trees. While I was digging out the sorting room, Kalam was working on a slime farm. It's quite far away from our house, so I seldom visit it. This high tower leads up to a little hut where Kalam can sit on watch while the slime is produced in the building below. I climb up this very high tower in spite of my vertigo, but my curiosity is stronger than my fright of heights. building just above the water surface, there is a strange green fire in the middle, and the slimes are attracted to it. However, they fall down in the hole and die. A rail cart runs around underneath and picks up all the slime balls. The slime farm was built because Kalam needed lots of slime to make the slime blocks for the flying machines in the sugar farm. For each project that we have, there is another project that needs to be done to support the first one. That's just how it is. Now that the sugar farm is finished, I'm sure there are other things we can use the slime for. Kalam is always up to something. It's really a strange building, almost floating on the water. Both the sorting room and the slime farm were side projects that were finished earlier. Now back to this week's happenings. Since we have a few days off from helping the village, we are going for an exploration trip again. This time it goes east. Remember the big crevice that blocked the way to the other village south of us? Well, I made a canal out of it, connecting to the waters leading south and east. That way it will be so much easier to travel. This is the crevice that now has become a canal from our river to the southern waters. And here to the left is our second neighbor village. Today we will just go past it. So I am going north on land and Kalam is following the water eastward. It's the map in my left hand that we are exploring currently. As soon as I step into water, I prefer going by boat. It's a much faster way of traveling. Much farther east we come into some really strange nature. Kalam told me it's the Badlands, but also called Mesa. I prefer Mesa because I don't know what's so bad about these lands. It looks beautiful. In the northeast there's a small desert next to the Mesa. I found this little building in the middle of nowhere. I'm sure it has a treasure inside, but I don't have time to dig down under it today. Instead, I put up a pink banner for Point of Interest and mark it on the map so we can go back and check it out later. I also found a field with horses. This is marked with a brown banner in case we want to come and collect some horses one day. Almost back home again after a very long journey. This tunnel was built just the other day. It's leading from our house eastward under the railroad that goes down to the deep mine. So now we have waterways in all directions from our house when we want to go traveling. Ah, the sight of home sweet home. I really love our house. And moving the cherry trees makes the view of it so nice when coming home. We have so much fun trying to dance in the map room, but we also talk about the celebration we are invited to. It's tomorrow and we are so excited about it. for the great celebration in the village. All villagers are already gathered around the bells in the town center, and we are on our way. This party is not as formal as I expected. They are all just walking around humming as usual. But the elder shows up and greets us, then starts the celebration with a speech. First he speaks about the hundreds of years that went by after the looters finally left. The slavery was gone, but only rubble and ruins were left after the once so flourishing town. The people that were left after sickness and childlessness were simply waiting for extinction to put an end to it. But then Malparara showed up. Once they learned that Malparara are friendly and have great knowledge of healing a building, he gave tasks for Malparara to fulfill. All that Malparara has done for them is far more than he could hope for. The village is again flourishing and has become an even more beautiful town than before, with Trincia's new houses. Therefore, says the elder, I would like to announce a new name for this town. We were once Wiarpa, the poor dear thing. Now we will instead take the name Nuniara, made well again. Because we are made so well again, more well than ever, thanks to Malparara, the two friends. They are now also friends to us and all villagers in this world. A great thank you, Malparara. The elder continues, I, Nguma, the father of this world, and all Markijbu, clever men of all villages, now want to invite you to a challenge. It is the challenge of 9. You have just finished the first of 9 challenges. With this first challenge, we have all learned about coincidence. It was no coincidence that you were chased away from your old home and ended up here. It was no coincidence that you chose to come to our dying village to ask for our hospitality. We got to know you and your good spirits just in time before it was too late for us. Our dreaming showed us that you would come, but we didn't know when. Nothing in this world is a coincidence. It's all in our dreaming. Now it is time that Malparara travel around this world to meet other Markijbus for the challenge of 9. One challenge will be more difficult than the other, and you, clever Malparara, will have to solve each challenge on your own. But I will be here to give advice if you need it. I know some secrets of this world after living for many hundreds of years. Come back to me if you step into any hindrance on your way. Finally, the elder, now Nguma, asks us to put up a sign at the dock to tell every traveler that this is the town Nuniara. And with that, all the villagers give us good night and go into their homes to sleep. The celebration is over. We didn't have any cake as I had hoped for, but instead more riddles and concerns than before. We run down to the port to start planning where to put up the village sign. Nuniara, made well again. What a lovely name. And the elder is the father of all villages in this world, Nguma. I will call him Nguma from now on, even if it's hard to say. I can't believe that we didn't know until now. Nuniara. I'm thinking about all that has happened. It has all been a mystery, and it still is. And Malparara, 2 friends. Kalam and I are friends. And Numa said we are friends to all villagers in this world from now on. What an honor! This sign will remind me every day of that honor. Friends to Numa and all villagers. I have been wondering about the challenge of 9 ever since Kalam told me he had heard the elder, Numa, talking about it with some of the older people in the village. Now we are supposed to do the challenge of 9, and it will be more and more difficult for each challenge, he said. So many questions are answered, and so many new questions for each answer. He said it wasn't a coincidence, that nothing is a coincidence. The dreaming had told him. That dreaming again, what is it all about? Tomorrow Kalam and I, Malparara, the 2 friends, have to talk about this really well. What are we supposed to do really? We don't even know where to start. A good night's sleep will hopefully make it all clearer. See you next time.